Friday, July 17th, and you're watching the Hammer Daily here on the Hammer Betting Network, presented by our good friends over at FanDuel. I'm your host today, Jason Cooper, alongside my producer for the next hour and a bit, Mike Bennett, working his way behind the boards. And we got a great show for you today. Can't wait to dive into everything and break everything down here for you. How things are going to run today, it's pretty simple. It's Friday. We're going to be laid back and enjoying a wonderful Friday. Not a lot of sports on, which means you probably shouldn't be betting, according to some people on Twitter. But no. We're going to be firing away regardless. Quick reminder in the chat, if you got anything, why not? It's Friday. If you want to come on the show and talk through things, you got a WNBA bet, you got an MLB bet that you feel really passionate about, feel free to give me a message on Discord, jump on, and we'll get you in. E-Colt was on last week, and E-Colt was going to come on again this week, but he has a flight, so we're going to wish him all a safe travel here today on his flight. So yeah, wish E-Colt safe travels. Maybe he'll come join us next week. But I will say, we've been discussing some markets, and we talked about some division winners last week. And I think he and I found like a little bit of an edge. You're going to want to stick around for the end because I'm going to be revealing it here live on the show. Do us a favor, smash the like button. Goes a long way here on the channel. If you're new to the channel as well, hit the subscribe button. So we're going to start things with our picks challenge. Then we're going to bring on Gaffa. We're going to talk some MLS and the World Cup. Specifically, the only two games remaining. The third place game, the finals game. Also going to touch on some superlatives. I prepared a list of things such as breakout player of the tournament, or speed of the tournament, best goal of the tournament. Things of that nature. Going to get his opinions and hear what he has to say about that. After that, I'm going to talk about some bets that I have for the World Cup finals and the third place game. Now, can't really give away too much on the third place game because we don't know what the lineups are going to be. But I think there's going to be a way to play it that could be pretty sharp. So we'll talk about that as well. And then finally, like I said, before we head out, break down some NFL stuff, NFL futures that E-Colt and I have found we'll call it a hidden edge on because of our good friends over at FanDuel. And I believe, haven't seen this market anywhere else, only bettable at FanDuel. And let me just take a look quickly. And they're not just taking like $10 on it. I have like a plus 200 right now, and you get about $4,000 on it. So they're not taking low amounts on these. But anyways, let's get into today's show. I see TQ in the chat saying Francisco Molinari live at 900 to 1 to win the overtime. It's crazy. If GRP came on the show on Tuesday and gives out Molinari to win, that is going to be utterly insane. I'm not going to lie. I didn't tail him. I'm not going to lie. I didn't do it. I thought he was an idiot, but here I am looking like an absolute idiot. And shout out to Connor as well, noticing the new rundown graphic. For those listening on audio form, you do not get to see the beautiful new rundown graphic as I try and point to it. I can't figure out what my left and right are. All right. We got Gaffa behind the scenes. Going to talk things through here in just a second. But before we do that, let's give a quick shout out to our friends over at FanDuel. You've heard me talk about it before, but things are a lot different when it comes to betting the World Cup. And we're hoping that they keep this promo around because it's a great promo for club soccer. On the biggest stage in the world, FanDuel is completely changing the game because sometimes your player gets subbed off and your bet goes on with them. Not anymore. With FanDuel Super Sub, if your player is subbed out, your bet stays in. That's right. If your player leaves the match, your bet continues on with the substitute. So you're still in it until the final whistle because in matches like these, anything can happen. And now your bet can go the distance. Let there be goals this summer on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/forward-progress to get started right now. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas in affiliation, Kansas Star Casino, 18 plus and present in DC, Kentucky, or Wyoming. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-MY-RESET. Call 1-888-789-7777. Visit ccpg.org/Chat in Connecticut. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. Call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY. Text HOPE-NY in New York. Call 1-877-770-7867 in Louisiana. Call 1-866-531-2600. Visit connexontario.ca in Ontario. And when you open up your sportsbook, your FanDuel sportsbook, and they give you a little survey, remember, fill that out. We want that super sub promo all the way back. It's great. I want it back. I'll let our reps at FanDuel know that we've loved the promo so far. Hopefully we can give them our feedback here so they know how great it is. Look at this. I've rambled too far. It's 12:05. We're going to bring on Gaffa here, and that means the Hammer Pick Challenge is going to be at the end of the show. So let's bring him on up here. You know him, you love him, at Touches in the Box on Twitter. He's been on the show previously a couple times. A soccer ball knower, a football knower. Gaffa, how's it going, my friend?
Doing well. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we can hear you all right. You know him for his awesome breakdowns on Twitter. We're going to break down all the games here in just a sec. But before we do that, Gaffa, let's take a step back. Only 2 games remaining, one that really matters. What's the World Cup been like? When you look back, what are you going to remember most fondly about these past 102 games that we've seen?
Yeah, I mean, like the sheer quantity of games definitely is going to be one of the more memorable aspects. It feels like it's been a month straight of just every single day getting to sweat multiple games. And then, of course, as the tournament gets to the end stages, you start, I mean, I think it was just last week or not long ago that we had the first kind of break in the action where there was a day without a game. So it's just been nonstop. And as someone who loves the sport and kind of the time of the year it's being played at without too much else going on, I think it's been nice in that regard. And I think the tournament overall has been a pleasant surprise just in terms of the competitive nature and entertainment value. Really, like there haven't been that many terrible games, and I think that was one of the big concerns going into this tournament is how the expanded format would play out, how the summer heat would play a role. And I think there was a universe where this could have been a lot less entertaining of a tournament. So I think overall it's been pretty enjoyable, and yeah, a lot of fun matches to sweat and some pretty good action on display.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot to talk about there because like when we came into this tournament, we were worried that, like, is it just going to be dominated by the best teams? Are these poorer teams going to have a chance? And we've seen sort of both things happen. We had the Final Four that was, as we expected, the chalk Final Four, but we got there in like such an exciting fashion. And these underdog teams that really a lot of people counted out. Obviously, Cape Verde is the one that sticks out in your mind when you think about that. They held some of these the world elites in football to like some great games. Almost sweep through, was a lot of fun there. Let's flip over and talk through the third place game. The type of game that means more to certain nations and not so much to others. And the 2 teams that are in it right now, England and France, probably don't want to play in this game. It's going to be a question of motivations here. Do you have any inkling on motivation? We talked a little bit about this with Goon yesterday. He mentioned that France may be slightly a little bit more motivated to get Deschamps a win, as they sort of see him out as the manager, whereas England probably has like a bitter taste in their mouth with Tuchel still. Talk me through what you see in this third place game in terms of like motivation, because I know we don't talk about motivation. Motivation doesn't really matter when it comes to betting, but in this one instance, it's pretty important.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's, you would certainly expect a decent amount of rotation to begin with. So the starters in previous matches and kind of the preferred 11 for both managers are likely going to be shifted around a little bit. I do agree with Goon in terms of the Deschamps factor. I think he's been there for quite a while. He's highly regarded as a player, and now he's had a pretty successful run as a manager of France as well. And so I think they'll look to send him off with a win. And certainly, I think at the very least they wouldn't want his last match to be something as poor as what they put together against Spain. So I think there's probably a little bit more there. At the same time, if Tuchel wants this job with England, he's claimed he's looking to stay on. He wants to be there through the Euros, and I think he probably needs to start to win back some of the public in England as well. So I don't know. At the end of the day, I think it's down to the players on the pitch as well, and a couple of them I'm sure are already in holiday mode, vacation on the beach to an extent, but. I do lean a little bit more towards France giving it a go here, and just I think the other factor that may be relevant is Mbappe still playing for the Golden Boot potentially, and just really chasing the all-time World Cup goal-scoring record, which I think he'll blow through at the end of his career. But every match kind of counts for that, and yeah, this third place match is one that historically is a little bit more open. There tend to be more goals. I think the last several editions, the average has been over 3.5 per match, which is pretty significant. So kind of look towards goals here. And I think that's just symbolic of a match where, it is a little bit more carefree, and there's not quite the same meaning attached to it. And it's not quite as cagey as some of the other matches play out. So, but yeah, would tend to agree with that analysis.
Yeah, things are a lot more open here, and we'll get to the Mbappe of it all in just a second. I want to ask you about this total, though, because we saw it open up at like a juice 2.5 towards the over at around like minus 134, 135-ish at some spots, depending where you looked. And now it's completely smoked that number. It's sitting at a 3.25 at most places. On FanDuel right now, 3.5 towards the over at plus 110. Under minus 134. We saw it wick up to plus 102 actually early in the AM at around 3 a.m. here. Went up to plus 102, but then there was a little bit of buyback on the under on FanDuel. Have we hit that critical buyback point where any more movement towards the over on this one, we're probably going to see under buyback?
Possibly. I mean, like I said, this is going to be a more open match than comparable sort of knockout stage ties have been. But I do wonder, it is being played in Miami, and obviously we've seen that the humidity there can kind of kill a few games. So I think that could maybe play a factor here, just in terms of preventing the total from getting too inflated. At the same time, I think the sort of prevailing narrative going into this game is that, the market is aware that goals are kind of more likely here. And I suppose the one thing to keep an eye out on is the fact that we can expect rotated sides. And, I'm not sure, for example, if someone like Harry Kane or Jude Bellingham are rested for this match, or maybe just, second half options as opposed to starters, how much of a role that would play. So I think there could still be some movement before kickoff, but I think the next big wave of action is probably more likely to be come lineups or just anything that leaks in the press conferences later today about what sort of a player selection we might expect here.
Yeah, and let's get into the player selection. And again, like I said, the Mbappe of it all, because right now we have Mateta, for France, who's lined at plus 140 to score a goal within 90 minutes. So obviously FanDuel out there protecting themselves in case Mateta does get the start. Mbappe at minus 135 here. But if we flip over and look at the golden boot, Messi has the clear stranglehold on the tiebreakers with the assists. Tout Mbappe hits the assist mark. But Mbappe to score a goal right now, minus 135 on FanDuel. But for him to win the golden boot, plus 150. Do you think there's going to be a lot of motivation here for Mbappe to win the golden boot? Because when you look back at this tournament, people aren't going to say, "Oh, Mbappe won the golden boot on the third in the third place game." When they talk about Mbappe's legacy, they're just going to talk about him winning a golden boot, and I have to think that might be his mentality as well here as he chases greatness. Any opinion here in terms of Mbappe, the golden boot, and if you think he'll play the full 90, if you think he'll be subbed on in like half, what do you think here?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say with 100% confidence. I do think that Mbappe will start this match and probably get the majority of it. I mean, at some point it'll kind of depend on the game state as well, so that plays a role. But he's the captain of this side. I think it kind of has to be the face of it to an extent in terms of putting in a better performance and sort of leading the team and doing that than what they did in the semis. So I anticipate he'll start. I still like that golden boot price at plus 150. I mean, to your point, he's, I think, something like minus 240 to score or assist, including extra time, and minus 130-ish to score just in the 90 minutes. Like, again, this is a match where we're expecting more goals. Messi does have the one assist edge in terms of the tiebreaker, but they're both on 8 goals. And, Messi is something like, I think, plus 140 to score against Spain in a match where we're expecting, far lower goal output. And so, I mean, there's a reasonable chance Messi doesn't score against Spain. They've conceded 1 goal all tournament, and it's going to be a more cagey match on paper. So Mbappe really might only need a goal here to actually get to the golden boot. So I still think that price is pretty appealing, and I think that's one of the better ways in on this match if you do kind of like the goals angle, but don't necessarily want to get involved in playing a 3.25 or 3.5 type of line, because I would imagine as long as Mbappe is there and getting a reasonable share of minutes, he's pretty likely to grab himself a goal or at least contribute to the scoring in some way across 90 or 120 minutes here. So I still think that price is decent. I know it was a little closer to plus 200 earlier in the week, and I think people have kind of caught on here. But yeah, for me, just looking at the the matchup for both in terms of Mbappe and Messi, I still think it's a reasonable price.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point there. The plus 150 for Mbappe to win the Golden Boot still available, still out there on FanDuel. And reminder, he needs to have for context right now, he's tied with Messi. Messi has the advantage there with, 4 assists now, 5 assists. There's no chance Mbappe can catch his assist total there. So he needs to have one more goal in this next game than Messi will in the finals game. Messi plus 140 on FanDuel to score within 90 minutes. So I think I do like the look there with Mbappe plus 150. Any other thoughts on this third place game, or do you want to just move on and talk the finals?
I think the only thing I'd add is that I don't think Mbappe is even drawing dead on the assist side either. I think he's one behind. I would say Messi has 4 and Mbappe has 3. I don't know where Mbappe's 3 assists have come from, but he's racked them up. And so, even if you were to just get an assist and Spain were to keep Messi quiet and sort of a lower scoring match, I think at that point the tiebreaker gets to like sort of your production across the minutes you've played, and I think Mbappe has the leg up there. So even from that angle, I think it's okay. As far as the match itself goes, would maybe look at like something like a France and both teams to score or something like that. So kind of looking at 2-1, 3-1 France maybe. They did lose Saliba last match, and I think he's a huge component of their defensive structure. I don't trust the likes of Upamecano and sort of the others they have available there without someone like Saliba organizing things in the back line. And so I could certainly see France conceding here, and England do have some quality and plenty of options in attack. So maybe look at that. But yeah, I think that's about it there for me, and probably lineups dependent in terms of seeing if there's any other value that sort of shakes out.
All right, France on the three-way money line there in 90 minutes, plus both teams to score yes is plus 169 on FanDuel. Of course, like Gaffa said, keep an eye on the lineups and keep an eye out there as well if there's any nuggets. There we go, in the press conference that we can find, and in the chat they mentioned. I can't believe I don't know how I didn't see that Mbappe had 3 assists. I just assumed he had like 1 or 2, but apparently they came out of nowhere. Anyways, let's
like I said, I don't know where he got those assists from. I would struggle to remember one of them, but they're there.
All right, let's flip over and talk the Spain versus Argentina match. Let's talk about this one in totality here. Spain minus 152 to lift the cup, but this Argentinian team is just like, will never go down without a fight. And I can't wrap my head around this Argentinian team. Are they like the sort of like, I don't want to say lovable underdog because they've come back in so many matches. It feels like they're more so of a villain when it comes to this World Cup, with how many things have gone right for them in terms of refereeing. Not saying that they got good or not saying that there's been bad calls, but just some things that have been interesting. That's definitely helped them along their way. Spain versus Argentina right now. Spain minus 152 to lift the trophy. Talk me through this one.
Yeah, it's funny, right? Like at the last World Cup when they finally got it done and Messi got his big piece of silverware, it kind of solidified his GOAT title. It was a little bit more of that, not underdog story, but just more sort of public support for it. And this time around, like you said, it feels like the script has turned a little bit, and there's a little more of a villain narrative around it all, and just the Vargentina or Argent FIFA, whatever nicknames they get. So yeah, it's funny how that works. I think at the end of the day, though, this is a good team, and I think there's been some elements of fortune in terms of getting this far, and they've maybe ridden 1 or 2 favorable decisions along the way. But like you look at the record that they've put together over the last 4 or 5 years against top sides, and it's very impressive. I mean, both from just the pure results, but also sort of the underlying process accommodating it. And I would say it's hard for me to think of a side currently that just plays with the level of intensity and heart and emotion that they do. And I think that goes a long way in this, where, it's international football is less of the tactics that are involved and a lot more about building a game plan for your best players to succeed and to shore up the weaknesses appropriately and things like that. And just the fight and team spirit that Argentina have, like you saw that in the anthems before the England match. Like they were absolutely like just fired up for it. And they kind of play like that really every match of significance. And I think that goes a long way towards the record that they've produced in the last several years. Obviously, I don't think that they've been as impressive as Spain have been this tournament. I mean, again, Spain have conceded 1 goal and been in firm control of really most of the matches they've played here. Never really looked threatened at any stage. And what they did against France, which prior to the semifinals, like to me, Spain France did sort of feel like the real final here. But what they did against France was really, really impressive. And the midfield they have at the moment is just it's hard to compete against that at this level, again, where you don't have the same sort of tactical edges to play to and time to coach, and you kind of rely a little bit more on the skill of your players. When you have a midfield that's able to control a game like that and protect the back line as well as they do, and sort of put the few players with real attacking quality in positions to do well, it's really hard to compete against that. And Spain have been just as impressive, probably more impressive actually, than Argentina across the last several years. And really going back to that Euros win, record is phenomenal. I don't think they've lost since a match way back when against Scotland, and in that time also just a very, very strong record against elite opposition as well. So it's a really interesting match on paper, and I think, to be honest, it feels priced very correctly to me. Like I don't see a huge way in at the moment. I'm curious to see how Argentina approach this game, because they did sort of shift their setup a little bit against England, and I wonder if that was more of an England specific game plan or more of a recognition of what they'd been doing previously and how it hadn't really been working as well, and maybe they'll continue with that here. So I think that's interesting. But yeah, this should be a really good matchup. I think the way I and most other people probably expect it to play out is that Spain will control the ball as they always do. Argentina will be, dogs and make it a dog fight. And I think it's going to be a little bit of a slower, cagier match. It's going to be played in pretty reasonable heat in the middle of the day there in New Jersey. You have these water breaks now. I think they're talking about a 30-minute halftime break. Like, I think there's just all kinds of like stoppages and breakages in play here. And when you consider that Argentina will probably be pretty happy to sort of foul to stop play as well. Spain will keep one eye on Messi, of course, at all times, and sort of play the slower way of controlling the match. I think it's priced correctly. I think it's a lean towards Spain edging it, but at the same time, like, you wouldn't ever really rule either of these teams out. And so I don't want to just discard Argentina altogether either.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point here. Argentina has always, like you said, been able to make these games into a dogfight, even though they love to concede early and then go on to win the games. I'm curious if, like, you go back to like even before the Egypt game, just Argentina to concede the first goal and then to win the match, like, and rolled that over game after game. You might be doing pretty well here. There's been so many instances when Argentina was a favorable price live where they ended up winning. Anyways, before we head out here, I don't know if you have a hard out here at 12:30, but I'd like to go a little bit longer with you if that's okay. Yeah. And any other bets you're looking at outside of? I know you mentioned the 90-minute market to lift the cup market is pretty efficient right now. Is there any props you're looking at? Maybe do you think that we saw last in England versus Argentina, tons of fouls? Argentina tried to play that sort of I don't know, had a little bit more bite in their game. Do you think we're going to see something similar here, where we're going to see a lot of fouls in this early on?
I could definitely see that playing out, especially with just how lenient the referees have been at this tournament. I think that really does favor Argentina, because they can just get more stuck in and not be, instantly on the back foot with multiple players on yellow cards. Like, I think, in a previous edition of that tournament, the way that both teams approached the first half there in England, Argentina, like, you would have had 4 or 5 cards already. And that does then change how the rest of the match plays out and how those players can kind of approach duels and one-on-ones going forward. So I would expect, like, where necessary, that they will sort of step in. But I also think Spain, they're happy to kind of circulate the ball sideways, and that that sometimes means defensively, like from an Argentinian perspective, you just need to find a way to get players behind the ball and suffocate the space and not give any clear openings away and just let Spain pass side to side. So it may also be a match where there's not quite the same need for fouling as there was against England. I think the fact that the England match, of course, was played indoors versus this one being outdoors in the heat, like that plays a role too, just in terms of transition opportunities. And I think just the pace of the game, usually if it's slower, there's, again, just not as much of a need to foul because it's more about players behind the ball and setting up a defensive structure than trying to like break up play. So I think it's possible. One player prop I did look at, Danny Olmo to have a shot on target is around evens -110 type of range. And he's really taken up that number 10 role for Spain. He's a player that likes to get shots off anyways. And I think just in a game where it could be slower, it could be cagier, I don't think there's going to be tons of huge chances necessarily. I think he's a reasonable price there to get a shot on target, just playing as a number 10 for Spain. Oyarzabal up top has not been particularly effective, and so there's plenty of production that kind of filters down into the midfielders for that side anyways. And like I said, Olmo is not shy about taking a shot, and so I think one shot on target there, -105 I see on FanDuel is a reasonable price.
Yep. Danny Olmo to have one or more shot on target is -105, like you said there on FanDuel. How do you think, there's no second half markets, but there's going to be opportunity live. How do you think how do you think the how do I phrase this? The halftime show. It seems like it's going to be longer than people are expecting. It's going to be like 12 to 15 minutes. Some people are saying it might be 20 to 30 minutes from build up to tear down to get the pitch ready for the second half. How do you think that could affect this game? And do you think that there's like anything you're looking at live that might be an opportunity?
Yeah, I've given this some thought as well. I mean, the fact that we're not 100% sure on the actual time frame and all that, it's a little bit more speculative than anything else. But I do think like 30 minutes is, I don't know if that's something where they'll put a little bit more energy into the first half and kind of take the almost 2 times as much halftime stoppage that they get to sort of recover and see it that way, or if it's more something where the first half potentially plays out even cagier because both teams sort of want to feel each other out, and then they know that they'll have 30 full minutes to kind of review tactics and make adjustments for the second half. And like we've seen that a lot this tournament, where the first half is very sort of try and get a feel for how the other side is playing, and then the second half is when it sort of breaks into life to an extent. So I can't say for sure. I do think 30 minutes is a little bit ridiculous, and I don't mind that they're taking aspects of like North American sport and trying to bring it to this tournament. But something like a 30-minute halftime break is like, that is a pretty meaningful disruption against what these players are used to, and just as fans, what everyone's used to as well. So I don't know how it'll play out. I did see that there's always the lines around which half will be higher scoring, which is kind of one of the ways into the second half. And I think second half there is +100. Obviously, there's also a tie market, so you would actually need the second half to be higher scoring than the first to cash the +100. But I could definitely see that. Like I said, there's been several games this tournament that have kind of played out that way, and in what could be just a really tactical, scared type of first half. There's potentially some value in looking at that market, but yeah, hard to say in terms of that 30-minute break. I feel like they're flying out like 100 different artists for this, so we'll see.
Yeah, they have like some like school band that's coming out to play. It's pretty insane. And yeah, you mentioned the half with most goals, which there's only really 2 markets you can play that have anything to do with the second half here. Second half with most goals +116 available on FanDuel, or you can take a look at the total goal bands in the second half. Maybe if you're interested in that, if you think it's going to be rather high scoring, you could take a look over there. Or I'm sure you could do like some SGP things where it's like under first half total goals and then like or something along those lines. I'm sure there's a way to attack it. Last thing to touch on for the Spain and Argentina match. It's a little bit less to do with Argentina, more so to do with Spain. I want to look towards the futures market because the Young Player Award seems to be Yamal versus Kubarsi. Yamal right now minus 250. But if you ask me, based on what I've seen, Kubarsi should be the one winning the award. Is this award going to go to Yamal simply because of the name brand? He's the future of the game, and it's just like another thing to add to his resume. It's something where like we don't want to look back and be like, how did Yamal not win Young Player Award when and Kubarsi, who may as well be a great defender, but won't be as prolific, probably won't have as prolific of a career as Yamal. Do you think that's going to like where the market is leaning towards as to why Yamal's 250? Talk me through the Young Player Award.
Yeah, it's a strange one. I mean, Yamal's been market favorite there since pre-tournament, and certainly pre-tournament it makes a ton of sense. But strictly on the displays at the actual matches so far, like he's been well below his best, and I'm not sure he's 100% fit from that injury that he had late on in the season with Barcelona. Like, just doesn't seem quite at that level he was at in the domestic seasons earlier on. So it's strange. I think this isn't something where it's a public fan voting type of thing. It is sort of I think they call it a technical study group that determines the award, which, your guess is as good as mine as to what FIFA's technical study group looks like. But I do think from a performances standpoint, and even sort of fitting the narrative that's emerging here, where Spain are almost winning this tournament with their defensive resilience, like Kubarsi very much plays alongside that in terms of being the anchor there in the back line, playing in every match. And I mean, if they were to win this tournament conceding 1, maybe 2 goals, like, it's FIFA. So again, who knows? But I think certainly from like a logical standpoint, you would think someone like Kubarsi gets more of the acclaim there than Yamal. Of course, there's also the potential that Yamal, puts together a goal or assist or something here in the final, and that's enough to sway things and just kind of solidify the pre-tournament expectations. But yeah, I agree. I think it's weird in terms of trying to understand the pricing there and what exactly contributes to the end distribution of the award. But I think Kubarsi has the better case for it personally.
Yeah, I think Kubarsi, I think we agree in that one. Kubarsi just definitely seems to be the better player so far in the tournament. The only difference really is, like you said, Yamal can win the award in the finals, right? I don't think there's a performance that Kubarsi could put together unless, like, I don't know, magically scores like the only goal in the match. It's a header, maybe that'll do it for him, but like that's pretty unlikely here. So if you had to click, would you click that 170, or would you just sort of lay off this one and just be like, I have no idea how they're voting for this, I don't want to get involved?
I'd probably leave it alone. I mean, I know that there's various analysts and coaches and things like that just evaluate the players, but just the fact that the market hasn't really moved away from Yamal, despite him not necessarily looking that great, I'm just not 100% confident on it. And I had a couple punt plays pre-tournament in that one. One of them was Manzambi, who kind of eventually came down in the prices, but it obviously wasn't quite enough when he got injured. I just leave it alone at this point.
Yeah, I'm convinced if he just played one more game, he would have won that award because of how poor Yamal has looked, and we know it's probably for injury because of injury. But Manzabi's been incredible this tournament. Let's flip over and talk through just the 2 MLS matches today. Do you have anything for us here in the MLS?
Not at the moment. I'll share whatever on later on, but it just coming back from the break, it's been a little bit difficult to assess like which players are fully available. Like the media coverage around the teams hasn't been as strong as it kind of is when the World Cup isn't in motion. And then, even just yesterday, there was a kind of a bizarre result with Portland absolutely thrashing the Sounders in away in Seattle in what's like a big derby match. They're kind of without a manager at the moment and, put together a 5-1 win. Just so I don't know, like there's been a long layoff, and I think across all of these leagues that are now picking back up after a midseason break for the World Cup, whether it's MLS or, Brazilian Serie A. Like they're just maybe something to look out for in the first match week or two. Is there's potential for kind of those surprise results, but we'll keep an eye on the lineups later today. It's the second match later on in the evening is the LA, El Tráfico is what they call it, the derby there between the Galaxy and LAFC. So that's always a fun one, and yeah, we'll see.
All right. Before you head out here, I got a couple awards I want to hand out with you for this tournament. I believe I have 11 here, and we'll go through one by one. You can keep it as tight or explain as much as you want here. Starting with best goal of the tournament. If you had to hand out the award, who wins the best goal of the tournament?
Oof. Honestly, I feel like there weren't that many just incredible goals, but the two that stick out, I think certainly the Sydney Lopez Cabral,
yes,
right, for
first
Cape
Argentina.
Verde.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean that one just kind of like I think the fact that there's the whole underdog story around Cape Verde and just that moment tying the game up against Argentina in extra time and just like insane goal in itself, just aesthetically too. I think that probably is number one for me. The other one that springs to mind is the Julian Alvarez one against Switzerland. I mean, I think that was ultimately a more meaningful goal, right? Because it won them the match, put them on to the next round, and probably equally as good of a strike. So those two, but I will give it to Lopez Cabral.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, has to be him. And Giovanni in the chat saying has to be Cabral's award there. Let's go to biggest upset of the tournament.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like upset it didn't win, but Cape Verde holds Spain to a 0-0. I mean, it's the only match Spain haven't won at this tournament. And, they were complete unknowns for majority of fans going into this tournament. So, kind of going into that match, I think that probably sticks out. And then Norway beating Brazil, like for those of us that follow closely and kind of understand the relative strengths of each of these teams, it's maybe not the biggest upset ever, but if you look back at that 10, 20 years from now, that's going to just stick out as a bit of a shocking result. And then maybe Paraguay, Germany, that probably is the other one.
Yeah, Paraguay, Germany, and Norway are the two ones that I sort of have there. I won't say that the Cape Verde is cheating because they've had such an outstanding tournament. We got to give them as many awards as possible. Most disappointing team in the tournament.
Yeah, there's definitely a few candidates. I think obviously anytime in one of these tournaments, you kind of look at which of the bigger teams fell short, and it's definitely a few. I mean, Uruguay stand out, just not that I expected them to be amazing at this tournament, but they were a little bit of a disaster and just chaotic, lots of off the field type of drama as well. And really an unceremonious exit too, just the way they kind of went out in the second half against Spain with the red cards and just all the tackles, and not really great from a sort of reputation standpoint there. And just, failing to beat Cape Verde and Saudi Arabia, just kind of a disastrous tournament for them. I think Portugal comes down a little bit more to the whole Ronaldo saga and Martinez refusing to drop him. And just, I think it's one of those where if you didn't have that whole narrative around the team and the Ronaldo factor, like it does seem like this Portugal side is capable of more than what they've shown. So that one, and then again, Brazil for me is just, it's kind of disappointing to have a Brazilian side that looks nothing like a Brazil team and that we sort of all remember fondly 20 years ago, right? Like there's just barely any players in the squad nowadays that even like feel really Brazilian, and just in terms of the way they play and the fun nature of it all. Like Vinny Jr. is probably the closest, and apart from that, they feel like a lot more of just a functional team and played that way, and I think they were ultimately pretty disappointing too.
Yeah, I think those are great as well. I wonder if you can throw France in there, maybe just with the way that they sort of bowed out, but it's tough to call a team disappointing when they make it to the semifinals. Breakout star of the tournament.
Yeah, I think the two that spring to mind are probably Monzambi for one,
Mm-hmm.
and I think he'll get his move to the Premier League here. It looks like he's going to be with Aston Villa.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he was really great and, followed up a strong year or two at the club level with Freiburg now with this kind of like pushing Switzerland to some goals, which is what they've struggled with since Shaqiri retired from international play. And yeah, I think he was great. The other one that I think had a really strong tournament was Bouadi from Morocco, just at his age, kind of dictating play in the midfield the way he did, and against a couple, pretty formidable matchups, really. Yeah, I thought he was another one whose stock definitely rose. And then I guess you got to throw. Can you put like a 40-year-old in there? Like, I guess Vazini is kind of a who is this guy to everyone knows who he is. And like, I guess he's kind of up there too.
Yeah, no, you can throw anyone in. The breakout star doesn't have to be a young star coming out. I wrote down Saibari as well. I know he's like about to go to Bayern, but like he was so impressive for me in this tournament. I'm like, who? Every time I watch Morocco, I'm like, who the hell is this guy? He was always a standout there for that Moroccan team. Worst meltdown or the biggest villain moment in the tournament?
I think managerially, I'd put it kind of between Roberto Martinez, just again, kind of all tournament long, just I think failing to get the most out of this Portugal side. And then in kind of like a single moment, I think Tuchel against Argentina the other day, that was just really disappointing how defensively just completely in their shell. I mean, there's the stat going around that's been viral around like how many passes they completed across minutes 60 to 85 or whatever. Like nothing really apart from one exchange between the goalkeeper and center back. So kind of an all-timer there as far as just a team that seemed in a decent spot, just completely retreating and really immediately paying for it and just being seemingly unable to adjust altogether. So from a coaching standpoint, I go those two, and then I think it was Canobio who kind of was the player that got he was the player that got the red card for Uruguay against Spain, but just really like kind of like toddlers fighting type of thing, like recognition they're going out, desperation sets in, and all of a sudden it just turns into crazy tackles and almost trying to injure the other team, which was really not a good look at all. So that one, and then I don't know, like does the Balogun thing count with, nothing against Balogun or anything, but it seemed like that whole saga really did kind of throw a wrench in things for the US side, and it seems like the players kind of expressed that after the match as well. Maybe Pulisic gets a little bit of a villain moment, maybe Messi even. I think there's a few candidates, I suppose, but it depends what we're defining as sort of a meltdown or a villain and how much everyone's like truly accountable for it.
Yeah, I wrote some down as well, and Bolo, just because it's fresh on the mind in terms of maybe like the poor dive. Too many people blaming it on VAR. Just shouldn't have been diving there. And then I also wrote down Qatar versus Canada when breaking Ismail Koni's leg is just that was just a horrible thing to see, and just bad sportsmanship there from Qatar. And I wish Canada.
The Embolo one's brutal too, right? Because like it's a dive, and I mean I think he kind of realized it was stupid moments after you saw him crying as he was with the field and everything, but it was also just like a really like heat of the moment stupidity where diving in that spot on the field is not even like
does nothing
provide you. Like a free kick 50 yards out from goal, like really, really stupid moment, and ultimately cost them. And the whole implementation of how the red card was given is obviously a little bit novel for everyone, but I think at the end of the day, it's hard to argue against that.
All right, let's talk through best comeback of the tournament. I mean, this is just, I guess, the Argentina award. Maybe we should split it up. Best comeback from Argentina, then best comeback from like everyone else in the tournament. Best comeback award.
Yeah, I guess you probably give it to Argentina in any of the, I guess, probably the Egypt one, but maybe the England one, just because it's a little bit higher stakes and more of like an opponent to respect to come back against. Nothing against Egypt there, but obviously just higher stakes in the semifinal to do that. And the way they did it was a little bit more, yes, you deserve this victory, than the sort of VAR tinged Egypt comeback. So I'd give it to Argentina against England. But I think the sort of non-Argentina one that sticks out is the Belgium-Senegal game, where I want to say Belgium were 2-0 down until
5 minutes, I believe, is what I.
Yeah, really late on there. And then, of course, the last minute goal in extra time as well. So that's probably the non-Argentina candidate.
All right, coach of the tournament.
I think
Pochettino maybe getting love. Marsh, Tuchel maybe before the meltdown.
I mean, Marsh did a decent job, and they were a little bit unlucky, I thought, to go out against Morocco. Like, I didn't quite have the quality there when it counted from his players, but I think he coached the tournament pretty well. I don't know if I give him the award. I think Solbakken at Norway, he's done a really good job, not just at this tournament, but before that as well. And I mean, Norway played very well against England, and again, I think the depth and heat and everything kind of killed them late on. But there were periods of that match where they were outplaying England, and I think he's a great example of just getting the most out of the specific group of players you have and sort of maximizing the strengths and like mitigating the weaknesses effectively. I mean, the center backs Norway have and sort of the defense that they line up with, and they have a keeper that's barely playing at club level. Like, it's sort of impressive to make it through a tournament with that, and so I think that speaks well to him. And Bubista at Cape Verde, like, I think you have to give him some love as well. I mean, players there are obviously all national heroes, but he's very much been there for a long time. It's interesting reading the story about him, like previous as a player, but then everything he's done to kind of bring the federation up. And he's been there a while now, and so I think he's kind of a national hero. And yeah, he coached really effectively, and again, only team to keep Spain from a 90-minute win. So I think that counts for a lot as well. Like, you have to put together an effective plan to do that.
Yeah, Jacob in the chat mentioning Scaloni, he feels has been the best manager so far.
Yeah, fair enough.
Best underdogs. I feel like I'm just going to skip this one. Like, it's how do you give it to anyone other than Cape Verde? I guess if you want to say anything extra more about Cape Verde, I feel like we've given them their flowers here. But we can just move on. If not, let's go. Last one here is the worst beat of the tournament. Now, this can be however you want it to be. It could be a bet that you made that you feel like you got absolutely dogged on. It could be, as a fan, a bad beat. Just anything that you think of in terms of a bad beat. It could be a team level thing. When I say worst beat of the tournament, what is the first thing that comes to your mind?
For me, it's knock on wood if you've heard this before, but I like Turkey going into this tournament because I thought the group that they were in and the path in particular for winning that group was something that played really favorably for them. I actually, it was prior to the playoff, the final playoff game they had against, I think it was Kosovo, that got on them around 200 to 1. And I think things more or less went like as I would have wanted, and not in terms of how the matches played out, but that path that the U.S. ultimately ended up on before going out against Belgium was what I was hoping Turkey could get to at like a pretty crazy price. And they just those two matches there against Australia and Paraguay were just kind of worst case scenarios in terms of just not creating anything. And I still can't explain it because I think the players they have are very strong. They have some really good attacking options. The coach there, Vincenzo Montella, he's someone who he's got a lot of experience at the club level, has been a pretty good manager all of his career. I can't make sense of it, and I still can't. And I think it might just be that, hey, you like Turkey as a dark horse at a major tournament, and now you must pay the price. But that just didn't go to plan. And then I bring them up because the second game against Paraguay also was pretty big on goals and just, both sides scoring the over there, and started off great because Paraguay scored in the first or second minute or really early on. And then just 90 minutes of Turkey, just stupidity in terms of trying to create chances, and really, really frustrating team. So that just, for me, that was like that was probably the bad beat, especially because then they get to that third match against the U.S. and ultimately was kind of meaningless. But they produced exactly what I would have expected them to do against the U.S. there, and it was just kind of relying on them to put together a win somewhere else in that group. And I think they could have been on that Group D winner path, which was ultimately pretty favorable. And they wouldn't have won the tournament or anything, but I think there's a lot of potential value in that. So they stand out. And then I'm trying to think of some of the bad beats. I mean, did you have any that on your side that kind of stood out there?
I don't know if I'm laying like big minus money and it loses. I don't know if I consider that a bad beat, but like Paraguay's under half goal first half versus Germany when they scored in the 42nd minute. I don't know if that's like a bad beat per se. I feel like I've gotten like a lot of good beats because of the I've been betting goal scorers, and the super sub has been like bailing me out a ton.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good one. I think anyone who had Paraguay just like relying on them to get a card of any kind against France, that might be the worst beat of the whole year. So
Fair enough. Gaffa, appreciate you joining the show. Any final thoughts before you head out here?
No, I think we covered it. Hopefully everyone enjoys the third place game and the final. And yeah, been a good tournament. So thanks for having me on.
Appreciate you. Quickly before you go though, there was a question in the chat. I forgot to get to this. Any early futures in club play with the season around the corner? What is it? A month and a half away?
Yeah, Spurs to win the EPL.
No. I can't tell if that's a joke or not.
No. Not at the moment. I'm someone who's very big on kind of like the player level ratings and factoring that in. And I don't even love taking too many futures before the season starts, because the season generally starts before the transfer window ends. And so, I think it's going to be a really, at least as far as the Premier League goes, I think it's going to be a really entertaining season. There's just lots of different teams that I think have cases to be made, and some interesting changes as far as the coaching goes. And it should be a good season domestically there in England. And but yeah, nothing just leaping off the page right at the moment. I haven't really got around that far, and probably need a little bit of a break after the World Cup before thinking about that.
I was going to say exactly that. I hope you enjoy your break after the World Cup. Hopefully you take some time off, take some vacation, and enjoy this nice weather that we're getting. I don't know exactly where you're located. Hopefully it's not in the northern USA or southern Canada where there's all these smoke and wildfires that's coming through. So anyways, enjoy. Appreciate you coming on. We'll chat soon.
Yep, sounds good. See ya.
Great stuff there from Gaffa. As always, go follow him on Twitter at touchesinthebox. Go follow him on Twitter. Got a couple things to get to before we head out here. Went a little bit longer than I expected. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Really enjoyed the superlative section, if you want to call it that. Quickly, before we talk about the Hammer picks we have over here, someone was complaining about no MLB talk. Well, you know what? Give me 2 seconds and I'll find some things in the MLB here for you. We're going to head over to the Chicago and Minnesota game, and we're going to look at the innings, and we're going to look at first innings, and we're going to is this still available? We're going to look at the Nerfy in the Cubs and Minnesota Twins game. I'm just trying to see if I can find this here. There we go. First inning under plus 134 right now. Not the best, not the worst. It was 145 a little earlier on the show, but someone was looking for some baseball bets. We got you the under first inning, half run, plus 134. No run in first inning, Nerfy, whatever you want to call it here. No run the first inning, the Cubs Twins game, plus 134. And you're probably wondering how I was able to whip that up and pull that out so quickly. Well, it's all because of our friends over at BetStamp and BetStamp Pro. If you're serious about props, the hard part is not finding an edge, it's scaling it. BetStamp Pro is built to grow your volume and your ROI. Every player prop and alternate line across 200 plus books on one screen in real time, priced against BetStamp's True Line, a proprietary model weighted per market and prop type, bias corrected, producing the most efficient, sharpest props pricing reference in the industry. Catch off-market props the second that they appear across more markets and more outlines than anywhere else. So you can get more money down at a bigger edge more often. Scan the QR code on screen or use the link in the description to apply. All right. Let's bring up the picks we have for today. Connor in the chat saying just bet the Tigers to win the AL. What's up?
We'll start with the third place games first, and then we'll do the finals.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do bring up the third place game here. We have England versus France. We got Rob, both teams to score. He's got the no at plus 200 here. Interesting angle. Moreto's taking France minus 1.5 in 90 minutes at plus 240. G-Stock taking both teams to score in the first half plus 200. Goon is taking halftime correct score, 2-1 France, 13-1. I got correct score in 90 minutes. France 4, England 2 at 30-1. Jacob taking France minus 2.5 within 90 minutes at plus 600. TA taking France to win in extra time at 11-1. And then Kanish saying first 10 minutes, 2+ goals at 22-1 here. It seems like we're all chasing down G-Stack George. That's the contest. We're trying to get first here. We're not trying to finish. We're trying to finish in first here. So hopefully we can bet some of those, get some of those bets in for us here. Just be careful if you're betting all that stuff. Take what you want from what we've given. After that, we got the finals. We got Spain versus Argentina. Rob is taking Spain minus 1.5 in 90 minutes, plus 370. Alex likes the first half under a half goal at plus 154. G-Stock's taking Spain minus the half within 90 minutes at plus 125. Goon is on Spain to win in extra time at 12-1. I got Enzo Fernandez to score from outside the box at 15-1. Jacob's got Danny Olmo, first goal scorer, including extra time at plus 950. TA's got Alex Baena, first goal scorer, 12-1 within 90 minutes. And then Kanish taking Laporte, first goal scorer within 90 minutes at 40-1. Yeah, he's doing his best Fezzik impression here with this World Cup contest. All right. Anything else we got for today? Yeah, we got a couple things before we head out. Got some anytime goal scorers for you guys here. Believe it's only Fernandez. I like him to score a goal, and for the sake of the contest, I took him to score outside of the box because I think that's a pretty good bet there. I don't think there's anything else. Let me just double check here. I think it's just Fernandez. I can't really do much in this third place match. I have no clue who's starting or who's not. So I feel like it's a hopeless endeavor for me to try and guess who's starting. And if the player doesn't start, you're just getting a bad draw on an anytime goal scorer. Mind you, if a player does start, could see some interesting things there with the super sub market. Speaking of the super sub market for the France match, we talked about it with Gaffa. We talked about France maybe pushing. There could be something there with a maybe Mbappe anytime goal, maybe Mbappe first goal paired with a Mateta anytime goal. You can get Mbappe first goal, Mateta anytime goal at plus 265. And then it seems like France is doing like for like. So if France continues the like for like, Matete comes on for Mbappe. You could get Mbappe first goal scorer. Hope that he comes off early here. Mateta anytime goal scorer. And then that would mean that Mbappe would have scored 2 goals. So you can get, let me see if this, can you pair that? I guess you can't pair this together. Should have tried this out before. Let me try this out one sec. First goal scorer and Mbappe 2+. There you go. Okay, so if you get Mbappe first goal scorer, this is in 90 minutes, plus 130, plus 310. Pair him with Mateta, plus 135. And then you were hoping to thread the needle on the like for like. And then you get Mbappe 2+ goals. That's combined 15-1. Threading the needle there a little bit. All I'm trying to do by pointing this out is that there are instances where you might be able to figure things out, who's getting subbed on for who, before the lineups come out. And if that happens, if you think you have a good angle on this, then shoot for it and take advantage of the super sub promo. A couple other things we're taking advantage of here. Connor saying just run back, do a Barcola anytime goal parlay. I'm probably going to do that as well. Let me see what that is right now. They're both priced 230 anytime goal scorer, 880. I love it. Do a Barcola anytime goal scorer, praying for the like for like in that sense. You can get it at plus 880. The other thing I want to mention here, we're going to flip over and talk. We talked football. Now it's time to talk some American football. Before we touch on the NFL, though, we got a Hit the Books show coming out today, 5 p.m. Eastern time over on the Hit the Books YouTube channel. Be sure to check it out. Bunch of things they're talking about, including CJ Carr, some ACC Media Day breakdown, some general betting questions from the people. So if you want to check that out, if you want to ask questions live, feel free to do so. Check out Brad Powers and Joey Kanish, the best college football show in the world, in my opinion, the best betting college football show in the world, over on the Hit the Books YouTube channel. All right, flip over. Let's talk some NFL before we head out. This one is really interesting because talked about it with E-Colt. Talked about it last week. He likes the Jags and he likes the Bengals. Well, on FanDuel, they've introduced a pretty unique market, and you gotta the way you find this is different than it is on computer than it is on your phone. So if you're gonna if you're on a computer right now, you're gonna head over to football, the football tab on the left, go to the top and go to NFL futures. You're gonna go scroll all the way down, and you're gonna find the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville Jaguars to have more regular season wins than. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna build out a little parlay here, because E-Gold really liked the Jags to win the AFC South, which is priced at plus 195. But if we combine the Jags to have more wins than the Titans, Jags have more wins than the Colts, and the Jags have more wins than the Texans, that lands us to around plus, was that 236?
236.
Plus 236 there. For the Jags to win their division, to win the AFC South, that's plus 195. Now let's put on our math hat here for a little bit. That's about a 3%-ish discrepancy in terms of implied probability, which means around 13%. So quickly, before we get into this market, team to have more regular season wins. If they tie, doesn't count. If both team finishes with the same amount of wins, then it's settled as a loss. So I'm just trying to think to myself, how many instances in which the Jacksonville Jaguars win the division are they also tied? And that's the discrepancy you have to figure out. Right here, it's implying 13% of the time they win the division on a tiebreaker. I think that's too high. I don't think that's the case. So if you like Jags to win the division, maybe take a different angle here. Again, reminder, you're not getting the tiebreaker. So if the Jags do end up tying for the division lead and win the division, this bet is a loss. But I think you can get some pretty interesting prices on this stuff. Another one I like that I talked about, the Bills are, if you do the same thing, minus 130 to win the AFC East, minus 103 to have more wins than the Patriots, Jets, and Dolphins. Click around, find some combinations. There's tons of different things you can do with this. Let me try and see. I think the other one I liked was the Giants. Can we click through the Giants here? Yep. Giants right now plus 550 to win the NFC East. This is another one that E-Colt liked. Plus 550 to win the NFC East. But if you click through the Giants to have more wins than the Commanders, the Cowboys, and the Eagles, what price does that get us to?
652.
652. Okay, so plus 550 plus 652. Maybe not as good as I expected there. But yeah, click through that stuff. Always trying to uncover these things for you guys. So do us a favor. If you found this at all helpful whatsoever, smash the like button. Goes a long way here on the channel. If you're new to the channel as well, hit that subscribe button. And that's it. That wraps up today's show. Appreciate you guys tuning in. If you're listening on audio forms, make sure you rate and review 5 stars. Hope everyone enjoys their Friday. If you're outside, be safe. Don't work out outside for too long, depending on where you are in the world. Avoid the wildfires. And yeah, appreciate you guys tuning in. That's it. That wraps up today's show. Shout out to Gaffa for coming on. Shout out to Mike for keeping everything smooth behind the board. Shout out to you guys in the chat, Connor, TQ, Vinny, Pwn Some Noobs. Appreciate you guys every single day showing up and showing out. That's it. That wraps up today's show. This has been the Friday, July 17th edition of the Hammer Daily here on the Hammer Betting Network, presented by our good friends over at FanDuel. We'll see you guys right here next week.